Welcome everyone. So Tesla is down by over 40% since the all-time highs in mid-December, and I considered reviewing in this video some of the different announcements and events that I believe are important for the stock. I know that many people are wondering whether it makes sense to buy or not, and whilst I can't really provide any recommendations on that, I do believe that right now there is still some downside, and the risk to reward ratio, I don't think it makes sense, at least right now. In the next weeks, once we will have Trump's announcements on how the tariffs for EVs, or not just EVs but autos in general, how they will look like, I believe we will get more certainty, and hopefully that will help the market to stabilize a little bit. Until then, I think the risk to reward ratio doesn't make sense. All right, so let's start, and I will start quickly with valuation, which seems to be at the top of the mind of many bears on this stock. You see the P ratio it's up by, what is it, 133. Forward P is about 102. So yes, if you look from a pure valuation perspective, yeah, some people could be justified to say, okay, this is an expensive stock just because it's in the triple digit P ratio. However, you have to weigh in the narrative, and if the narrative is strong enough, then that premium is justified. And I think Tesla has a strong narrative. I'm not sure if it justifies this valuation yet, because there is a lot of pessimism around Elon's involvement in the new administration. So I don't know. It's right now I see the headwinds and the tailwinds, going one against each other. So it's a bit of a gray area where one cannot say that yes, the humanoid business or the robotaxi business justifies this valuation over, just looking at the company's EVs or battery cells. So valuation, it's relatively important, but you have to take into account more than just some ratios. All right, let's start with the events. So the first one, we have Tesla announced today that they're going to launch in Saudi Arabia. And as you probably know, from 2018, there were some tensions between Musk and Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, mainly because he tweeted that he was going to take Tesla private back in 2018, and he had funding secured, and that didn't happen. So there was a lawsuit, and there were some tense conversations back and forth between Elon and the public investment fund of Saudi Arabia. Something interesting to consider is that just a few months after these tensions between Tesla and Saudi Arabia, this fund, the public investment fund, purchased or invested, I think I have here the exact value, invested more than 1 billion in Tesla's direct competitor, Lucid. So that was, I guess, the drop that made the glass full. And yeah, that's where I think the relationship broke between these two. Now, of course, since the new administration took office earlier this year, the relationship has improved, and now Tesla is scheduled to launch in the capital on April 10. So is this relevant or not? I will say it's not really relevant considering the other events that I'm going to discuss in a second. And I say it's not relevant because if you look at the market share of EVs in Saudi Arabia, which by the way is the leading country in the Gulf region when it comes to EVs. So the market share in this country is 1%. Yeah, so the EV market share is 1%. So I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. And you also have to consider that BYD and I think there was another competitor that was mentioned in the article. I think it was Lucid as well. Yeah, Lucid. So they are already operating in the area. So I don't think that this announcement is going to make a major change in the sentiment around the stock. So speaking of market share, I believe this headwind is more strong than the tailwind that I just mentioned. We have Tesla's sales and market share in Europe declining again in February. So to be specific, the market share fell from 2.8 in February 24 to 1.8 in February 25. So that's a 1 percentage point decline, which is quite significant. And in regards to the number of cars sold, we're talking about 70,000 versus 28,000 in February 24. So it's a big change. To be honest, I have here one of the reasons why that may be the case. Europe is not really keen on Elon after his involvement with the new administration. So of course there seemingly is a French boycott for American companies. In France, like Victoria's Secret or Tesla. Here's the data. So we got the data for EU, including Norway, Switzerland, and I think it's Iceland and the UK. And you can see Tesla, the year-over-year change between February 24 and February 25. We have a decline of 40% in the number of vehicles sold. That's significant. And now you may say, yeah, but February had one less day, so that should, it's an unfair comparison, if you know what I mean. But if you look, for example, at the January and February sales, so you take into account both months in 24 and 25, well, the decline is even worse if you do that. So 42% down in these 2 months in 25 compared to these 2 months in 24. So overall, the picture is not particularly attractive, and this makes me wonder if the guidance for the next quarter, I wonder if Elon has considered this or whether he has taken this into account. Because if he hasn't, I believe that the company could miss revenue guidance next quarter. So something to consider. Moving on, we have China. We have the data for the month of February. Of course, March is not ready yet. And for February, we have the retail sales. And this is the market share among the different automakers in the region. And this is for new electric vehicles. So BYD is leading, unsurprisingly, with a market share of about 30%. And Tesla is quite far below 3.8% in February. And I'm quite surprised to see Chery or Chang'an or Geely significantly above Tesla. And if we scroll down, we can see the 2 months. And again, in China, you had the New Year's in February, and you had, of course, one less day in February. So, if we compare January and February in 25, so we take that data into account, Tesla's share is slightly better, so 4.1%, which, again, is quite far below BYD's. And when we look at the number of exports in February, so this number is down by 87% year over year. So these are cars that were manufactured and assembled in China, but they were exported and sold to other countries. So this is the chart where you can see the variation of the retail sales in China and the exports from China to other countries. And what I found interesting and concerning, to be honest, is that these numbers are the lowest since June 2022 in regards to the exports. And in regards to retail, we have the lowest numbers since October 22. So, yeah, you probably remember what happened with Tesla's price back then in 22. at the end of 22. It was quite of a headwind. So yeah, something to take into account. Moving on, if we consider the data for January and February, and we compare that to 24, for retail sales, I think they're down 13.6%, and for exports, uh, the figures are down 46% year over year. So yeah, that's a significant drop. Now, focusing on China, we have the rollback of the full self-driving trial. As you probably know, at the end of February, it was announced that Tesla will be offering a 1 month free trial for individuals who purchased a Tesla that has, the hardware 4.0. And it seems that there was a policy change, probably not related to Tesla, although I believe it might have been related for the reason I'm going to explain in a second. So this policy change led to Tesla to pause this trial. And well, it seems that there was an email by Tesla's vice president, who announced on a social media app, I think. I'm not sure what Weibo is, to be honest. And she announced, that they will pause it until they can sort this issue. So, yeah, essentially, she noticed that the new set of rules, to closely regulate the software updates in connected vehicles. So it seems that Tesla's FSD, they actually removed that name from the driver assist. So now they call it driver assist, but they don't call it FSD, probably from a regulation perspective. And this is an article from March 25th, that was yesterday. And it seems that, just in one day, this article notes that one driver racked up 7 tickets within the span of one single drive because, the FSD was not as efficient there as it is in the States. To be honest, I do like the FSD, the version 13. I think it's incredible. And of course, in the States, it works better because I believe you have more data, or maybe there was more focus on that region. And of course, it's an early deployment in China. So, well, I'm not very surprised to see that there are backlashes, of course, at the beginning of the deployment. Now, moving on, in Canada, we have more headwinds. So, of course, we have tensions between the Trump's administration and the Canada government, particularly with the 25% tariffs that, will be effective. Most of them, I believe 75% of the products are still exempt to the tariffs, or close to 70 or maybe 60 are exempt to the tariffs. But I think April 2nd is when, of course, they will implement that 25% for all the products. So what we have here is that Canada, they froze the rebate payments. Was this? Think about the tax credit, the $7,500 tax credit that you probably have in the States for EVs. But this is similar, but in Canada they have a $5,000 incentive for users for people to purchase EVs, and it seems that this is frozen. So I think there was a total of 43 million Canadian dollars that were frozen for these payments to Tesla. And well, it seems that the tensions between Tesla and Canada are not very well, are increasing because Tesla was recently removed from the Vancouver International Auto Show, and that was on March 20. And the main reason is because there were concerns, safety concerns, and you can imagine why. As you've probably seen it on the news, you have a lot of anti-mask protests, and of course that brings some tension. So I pretty much understand why they removed Tesla. However, I think another reason might have been because of the politics between Canada and the US. You probably know that Elon actually made this statement on X. So there was a petition. I think it was in February or earlier this year, yeah, in February. And there was a petition that argued that the government should revoke Musk's Canadian passports because he engaged in activities that go against the national interest of Canada. So particularly, he's a member of a government that is attempting to erase the Canadian sovereignty. Why? Well, you probably heard about Trump trying to get trying to make Canada part of the US as the 51st state. So, yes, there is a lot of backlash right now between Canada and Musk. And yeah, the situation is not particularly attractive there. In any case, moving on, it seems that Cathy Wood is quite bullish on the stock, and in 5 years, she's predicting about 2600. That's a pretty interesting price target. That said, in 5 years, I will be honest, all these headwinds that I mentioned, Canada, China, I think it's going to be noise because the other ventures, I believe they will be more mature and they will probably generate. I wouldn't say all of them, particularly the humanoid venture. I don't think it's going to be as profitable as they painted it to be. But I think the robotaxi venture could generate revenue in the same order of magnitude as the EV segment. So yeah, in 5 years from now, I think what I'm discussing here will be just noise. However, 2600, it seems a bit stretched. I gotta say that. She's not the only one that's bullish on Tesla. We have Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. So you probably know this from the news. He went on Fox News and he essentially said that if there is something that you need to learn tonight, is that you need to buy a Tesla. It's quite of a statement coming from a cabinet secretary because usually they never endorse individual stocks. Although I don't think there is anything wrong with this. I mean, he didn't break the law, so that's totally fine. And he also saw that it's unbelievable that this guy's stock is this cheap. It will never be this cheap again. Probably it's true if you have a 5 to 10 year time frame, yeah. But if your time frame is shorter than that, maybe 1 year or 2 years, then I'm not really so sure about his statement. All right, there is another person that's quite bullish on Tesla as well. I'm not sure if he's bullish, but at least he likes Tesla or Tesla, and that's Trump. And so it seems that the new administration is giving Musk a hand, to help him with the backlash, between his tasks in the Dodge and his role as a CEO for Tesla. So fair enough. We have another news from the US. I don't think this is as relevant as the press makes it. So we have recalls for most Cybertrucks due to the trim detaching issue. It seems that this will be these recalls are applicable for models between November 23 and February 27. February 27, 2025. So that's about 47,000 vehicles, and it's close to the entire fleet. So it is significant, although I wouldn't say that it's a significant impact. It will be on margins, maybe for Q1 and Q2 this year. But I wouldn't say it's as important as Tesla's decline in market share in Europe or China. So I think this headwind is not as strong as those ones. Now, other recent announcements that I think they're interesting include the first humanoid to go to Mars in 2026. I think this is going to bring a lot of hype around the stock because, well, he's going to be, well, it's a humanoid, which is weird enough because I'm already calling it he and not it. You already see how strange these humanoids are. So this humanoid will be sent on the first mission that Starship has to Mars at the end of 2026. And human landings may start as soon as 2029, although 2031 is more likely. So this was a statement by Elon, and you can already see that he's pushing back the deadlines, which, well, it's not a big surprise, but funny enough. Speaking of humanoids, NVIDIA's CEO is quite bullish on them. Of course, he has a big stake or a significant stake with the RTX GPUs and the Isaac Groth N1 generalist foundation model. And well, I'm also bullish on humanoids, but I don't think over the next 1 to 3 years we're gonna see anything significant coming from this venture. And finally, the robotaxi business, where you probably know that Tesla is going to launch in Austin in June this year. The problem is that Waymo is already hitting 200,000 paid trips per week, whilst Tesla hasn't even started yet. And I don't know, it's going to be a bit difficult for Tesla to gain traction in the robotaxi segment. Although I think the total addressable market there makes sense. And I think that Tesla is going to be able to capture a good market share of that. That's it. I think these are the most important events, or the most important events that happened over the past month. And overall, I do think that Tesla is an interesting stock if we're considering, a 5-year time frame, maybe even more than that. Because right now, the headwinds, they are stronger than the tailwinds, in my view. Great. So in an upcoming video, I will do a fundamental analysis on this stock, and I will focus on financials. I will focus on P ratios, on fundamentals, on price action as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.